All right, so welcome everyone. Today is Wednesday, November 29th, and this is the Cluster API office hours. If you're joining us for the first time, just a reminder that you can get the edit access to the meeting notes by joining the SIG Cluster Lifecycle mailing list group. And a reminder that Cluster API is a subproject of SIG Cluster Lifecycle, and we follow the CNCF Code of Conduct. So just please be respectful to everyone, and if you'd like to speak, please raise your hand. All right, so let's get started. We have a light agenda right now, but if anyone would like to add anything, please go for it. You can add under discussion topics. All right, so before we start, we'd like to do a little intro at the beginning for anyone who's new, to just get a chance to say hello and just tell us why they're here and kind of what you're interested in. So if anyone is new to this call, now is your chance. I will mute. Feel free to speak up or raise your hand and say hello. All right, I'm not seeing any hands going up. Looks like if we have a light participant list today, so I will keep going. Okay, do we have any proposal updates? Don't think there are any in progress proposals, but does anyone have anything to add here? Okay. Okay, cool. Discussion topics. All right, Richard, go for it.
Yeah, thanks everybody. So starting to look at CAPI for, I guess, implementing an installation pattern using CAPI for OpenShift. And one of the things that we do in our installation process is we create tag and tag category for a new cluster during the installation process. If we move to a pure CAPV world, that does not happen today. And I've been looking at other providers, and it appears that the creation of things like tags and tag categories, any type of tag, is created somewhat inconsistently between providers. And what I'm trying to understand is, and if I'm not making any sense, please stop me. But what I'm trying to figure out is, do providers typically assume that tags have been created before CAPI tries to create resources? With CAPV, for example, you can attach a tag that already exists, but if you're creating a new cluster, that tag doesn't even exist yet, so attaching it is tricky. So I'm just curious what people think. If anyone has any comments, feel free just to jump in.
All right, and just to make sure I understand correctly, are you talking about tags as in like cloud provider tags? Something like, yes. I'm assuming each provider defines tags differently. Okay, got it.
Exactly right, yep.
Okay, so I mean, if anyone has anything they'd like to say on this topic, please raise your hand. But in the meantime, I can talk about what we do in Azure. So for CAPZ specifically, so we tag resources with Azure tags. I don't know about vSphere, but in Azure, the tags aren't resources. They're just key value pairs, and you don't need to create a tag per se before tagging a resource. So the way we do it is we have what's called additional tags that are user defined. So the user can define tags in the spec, which will be added to the resource. And those are added on top of our existing kind of predefined built-in tags that CAPZ defines. And those are kind of cluster metadata, things like cluster name and whether the resource lifecycle is managed by CAPZ and when it was created and things like that. So all that gets defined on every resource that it's taggable by default. And then the user can optionally define additional tags that will be added on top of it. And those tags are reconciled as part of the normal cluster reconciliation. So if you modify, delete, add tags later, they will get edited on the resources. I don't know if that helps answer your question.
Well, I think that does help, and I think could be the reason why I'm perceiving some inconsistency is because what a tag is, even that varies between different providers. For VMware, a tag is a separate entity that you refer to by its UUID essentially when you create a VM. So the tag has to exist before the VM is even created, or else it won't attach. Okay.
Yeah, so if we have some other different resources that have a similar pattern. For example, I'm thinking of identities. So in Azure, you can define, um, what's called user-assigned managed identities, and those are kind of a separate resource that you can then attach to your um, VMs. And so for that, I think the pattern that we have is we expect the user to have pre-created it. So you can
Okay.
refer to it by ID, so resource ID, but that implies that the resource already exists.
Okay. Cool. That's helpful. Okay. We may have to look at it as similar here as well. Okay. Cool. Thank you, Cecile. I really do appreciate it. If anybody else has any thoughts, I'm happy to hear. I really do appreciate that. It gives me some good direction. I'm going to raise it on the CAP-V call as well, just to kind of get a more focused opinion from the vSphere world, but definitely getting a broader answer is really helpful. So thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not seeing any hands raised, but if you have any async comments, feel free to add them in chat. All right. Furkat, you're next. Go for it.
Hey, thanks, Cecile. So, small PSA, CAPI 1.6.0 RC1 is live. We got it yesterday. Next week, hopefully, we should be able to deliver 1.6.0 minor release and two other patch releases from release 1.4 and release 1.5 release branches. Yeah, that's the first one. Any questions, or I can go to the next one, probably. So we are organizing the retrospective meeting for 1.6 release cycle. The Doodle poll is up for meeting time. Please vote and come over if you'd like to give your opinion about the release cycle. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Furkat, and really, really great work on the release. It's been really great seeing the release team adapt to the change. And I think this one was, not easy because we had to push back the RC candidate by a week. So really, really great work on that. And thank you to everyone involved.
Thank you.
All right. Any questions for Furkat or the release team? Okay. If not, let's move on to the next topic. Deepak, you have a topic about cluster class. Go for it.
Yeah, hi. So I have been implementing cluster class support for Nutanix CapEx. I'm trying to read the documents. They have enough information, but I think there is still something missing from my understanding. Maybe I may be wrong or need to improve. But overall, this whole cluster template, like I saw all the providers, they have an empty cluster template. Whereas when it gets generated, it actually uses the cluster information, whatever the cluster object you have. But there is no documentation around it or how exactly we want to support it. Like, for example, I see that we have to create a new controller for this cluster template object. But what should it contain was not documented anywhere. So am I missing any other documentation, or do we need to improve on it?
So I don't know if anyone here has any thoughts on that or has recently looked at this. I know Willie has recently looked at implementing cluster class in CapZ, so I'd wonder if he has thoughts. Yeah, Willie, go for it.
Yeah, I think the Azure cluster template, basically what cluster class is, it templatizes all these fields or these objects, and the cluster template is supposed to contain like fields that can be shared across multiple like clusters. So I can like pull up the maybe the CabZ implementation of it and kind of get back to you on that, because I've recently done a lot of work with cluster class, so I can definitely help you with that.
Okay, yeah, that'll be great actually. Yeah. Because I didn't find anything in the documentation as such. So I've been sort of reading other providers in general, but maybe some more consolidation of documentation will be good.
Yeah, sure.
Good, thank you.
There's documentation on like how to use the cluster class, but yeah, in the on the provider side, yeah, there could be some better documentation. So yeah, we'll take that into consideration.
Sure, thank you.
Is there a reference PR maybe for the Docker cluster template implementation that might be helpful? I wonder if we could, have maybe add more documentation to the PR itself in terms of like what steps are needed to follow for a provider, but anyone could kind of take it as a reference guide. Just an idea.
Yeah, I can look for that. I didn't work on it like when it was initially implemented, but I can dig around and see if we can find that, because it definitely exists.
Great, thank you, Willie. Anyone else have any questions or thoughts on this topic? All right, any ad hoc last minute discussion topics before we move on to provider updates? Okay, all right, CabZ, Matt, you're up for our first provider update.
Thanks, Cecile. This kind of speaks for itself, but we had we had a minor release and a couple of patch releases almost 2 weeks ago, but because of Thanksgiving and other things, we just didn't announce them here, and I'm kind of pedantic, so I did so. You can click through if you want to see what's in there, but I don't think it's worth getting into the details here.
Thank you. Thanks for the announcement, Matt.
Yep.
All right. Any other provider updates or any questions on this one? All right, if not, I think, Mike, you have the last topic about the feature group updates.
Yeah, thanks, Cecile. Just an announcement. We're having a meeting today. It'll be at the the top of the hour after this one. Same Zoom channel and everything. So if you're curious about Carpenter and CAPI integration, come join us.
Awesome. I look forward to hear more about what comes out of that. All right. Any last minute thoughts, comments, questions? Open floor. Now is your chance. Okay, if not, hope you all have a great rest of your day and your week, and I will see you all online.
Thanks, Cecile.
Thanks, Cecile.
Bye.
Thanks.